Ever wish you could bring that smooth online shopping cart experience, the one we all know, to your complex B2B world?
Mhm.
Well, Oracle CPQ, heard you. We're diving deep into their revamped shopping cart feature today. And trust me, this is not your average digital grocery list.
Yeah, it's a whole new approach, that's for sure. Especially for anyone who's used to the pre-22B world.
Okay.
We're talking a complete overhaul here,
Right.
particularly in the legacy UI.
Okay, so a clean slate. Out with the old, in with the new. But before we start adding things to our virtual cart here, what's the big deal here? What's got everyone buzzing about this?
Well, imagine this. You're juggling like different departments, maybe even different project types, and they all need to place orders, right?
Okay.
So instead of one giant confusing cart, you now have one shopping cart per commerce process.
Hold on. Commerce process. For those of us who aren't fluent in Oracle CPQ yet, what exactly does that mean?
Oh, good point. Good point. So think of a commerce process like a blueprint.
Okay.
It's a blueprint for how your products are sold. It defines the steps, the approvals, everything from quote to cash.
Right. Right.
So each of these blueprints now gets its own dedicated shopping cart.
Oh, okay.
No more jumbled mess.
So it's all about keeping things organized, streamlined.
Exactly.
No more accidental orders from the wrong department.
Exactly.
But I'm hearing whispers about a huge power-up for admins and all this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oracle CPQ has basically handed the keys to the castle over to admins with this.
Wow.
You control practically everything about the shopping cart experience, like enabling it, customizing those button labels,
Okay.
even choosing which columns show up.
Now that's what I call control.
Right.
So we're talking serious customization here.
hmm
Could I, for example, give my sales team like a streamlined view
Absolutely.
with only the most relevant products? Or even have like discounts magically appear based on, what's in the cart?
You got it. This level of control allows for all of that and more.
Wow.
Want a big red clear cart button?
Yeah.
Done. Want to hide certain items during checkout to avoid confusion?
Hmm.
Consider it done.
Uh-huh.
It's all about tailoring the experience to your specific needs.
This is blowing my mind. It sounds incredibly powerful, but with great power, you know what they say,
Right.
comes maybe a slightly steeper learning curve.
It's true.
What's the catch here?
Yeah, you're right. There's always a trade-off. One big change that might trip some users up is the way quantities are handled.
Okay.
You can no longer edit them directly in the cart.
Wait, really? So how do you adjust those all-important numbers then?
So after checkout, you fine-tune quantities in the transaction UI.
Okay.
It's a two-step process now,
Cha-cha.
which might take a minute for users to get used to.
Interesting. So you're saying communication is key here.
Absolutely.
Make sure your users know about this new two-step dance we've got going on here. Speaking of steps, you mentioned commerce processes earlier.
Yeah.
How do those tie into this whole shopping cart system?
So it's all connected through something called process invocation.
Okay.
And essentially, you're telling the system, hey, this shopping cart belongs with these specific products and catalogs.
Right.
And you need to actually configure that for each commerce process. It's not automatic.
Right. We don't want any rogue shopping carts floating around in there.
Exactly.
But this all sounds a bit, technical. Where does the user experience come into play here? How do people actually access this amazing new shopping cart?
Okay, so once it's all set up, users can add items from different parts of the system.
Okay.
Think like model configuration or even just browsing parts search results.
Right.
But here's a quirk. That view shopping cart link,
Yeah.
it doesn't just like magically appear.
Now that's interesting.
Yeah.
You're telling me this whole sophisticated system is ready to roll, but I have to dig for the actual cart. It does seem a tad counterintuitive,
It is.
like burying the treasure chest.
A little bit, yeah.
So admins need to manually add that link to the navigation menu.
Exactly. It's one of those things Oracle CPQ assumes you want to customize.
Oh,
But yeah, it's easy to overlook if you're not careful.
right.
And speaking of customization, there's another layer here. Permissions.
Okay.
You can control which user types see which carts and buttons. Keep things nice and tidy.
Right. We don't want interns accidentally ordering a year's supply of office chairs or something.
Exactly.
It's all about that control. But all this talk about adding items, how does the cart actually work in practice? Like, walk us through it.
Sure. So picture this.
Okay.
Your sales rep is configuring a complex product for a client.
Mm-hmm.
They've nailed down all the specs, and bam.
Yeah.
Instead of starting that whole, quote, process right then and there,
Right.
they hit add to cart.
Okay.
It's just like online shopping,
I love it.
but for, industrial strength equipment or software package.
Okay, I'm getting some serious online shopping flashbacks here.
Yeah.
So they load up the cart with everything they need,
Yeah.
and then what? Do they hit like proceed to checkout, just like I do when my online shopping spree gets a little out of hand?
Pretty much.
Okay.
But remember that two-step quantity process we talked about?
Right.
That comes into play now. They'll finalize all those numbers in the transaction UI,
Okay.
which is also where approvals and all the behind-the-scenes magic happens.
Streamlined but controlled. I like it.
There you go.
This new system sounds like a dream for keeping, keeping those complex orders organized, efficient, so exciting. But with all this talk about, customization and control, there's got to be a few more quirks lurking under the surface here, right?
Oh, you know me too well.
I do.
One thing to watch out for is currencies. All items in a single shopping cart have to use the same currency.
Hold on. So no mixing and matching currencies in the same cart?
Unfortunately not, no.
What happens if I have like an international client who needs to pay in a different currency?
You need to create separate commerce processes, each with its own shopping cart for those different currencies.
Okay.
It's a bit of extra legwork, but it keeps things clean.
Right. And avoids any financial fumbles.
Exactly.
The joys of multi-currency transactions. It's always something, isn't it? Okay, so we've covered the shopping cart basics, but I know a lot of Oracle CPQ users rely heavily on bills of materials, or BOMs as they're known.
Right.
How does this new cart system play with those, more complex structures?
That's the million-dollar question.
It is.
And the answer, unfortunately, is not as straightforward as we'd like. Right now, the shopping cart features don't fully support BOM mapping.
So a bit of a compatibility hiccup there.
Yeah, for now.
That's definitely something to keep in mind for those who are, heavily reliant on BOMs.
Absolutely.
Not a deal breaker, but definitely something to be aware of. Now, I love those aha moments.
Right.
Those little details that, seem kind of small but can make a really big difference. Anything like that come up in your research?
Absolutely. Remember how we talked about adding that view shopping cart link manually?
Yes.
Well, there's a behind-the-scenes change in how those navigation links are actually created.
Okay.
They've switched to using something called a process var name instead of the process ID.
Okay, I'll bite. Process var name. I'm intrigued, but also a tad terrified. Break it down for me. What does all this tech jargon actually mean for those of us who aren't coding wizards?
It's simpler than it sounds.
Okay, good.
Think of it like this. Imagine having to remember like a long, complicated code
Right.
for every single product in your catalog
Yeah.
versus using a simple, easy-to-remember name. The process var name is that easy-to-remember name. It just makes finding and referencing things a breeze,
Gotcha.
especially for admins.
So less time deciphering code, more time actually using these awesome new shopping cart features.
Exactly.
Music to my ears. Any other hidden gems you want to share before we wrap up?
One more.
Okay.
It's a biggie. Session-based carts.
Oh.
Just like online shopping, if you close your browser window or log out,
Yeah.
your Oracle CPQ shopping cart, poof, vanishes.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah.
You're telling me all that hard work configuring, like a complex order could just disappear into the digital abyss just like that?
It's true.
Imagine spending like hours, maybe even days, meticulously configuring that perfect order just to have it like vanish with one click.
It's brutal.
Now that's a cautionary tale if I've ever heard one.
Yeah, it's definitely something to hammer home during training.
Right.
This isn't your average online shopping cart where you can, pick up right where you left off.
Yeah.
Remind users to save their progress or risk losing it all.
Seriously. Consider this your official warning, folks. But hey, on a more positive note, we've uncovered so much about this new shopping cart system.
Yeah.
From like admin superpowers to all those, those quirky little caveats, we've explored it all.
We really have.
For those listening who are, ready to dive in and start using this feature, what's the key takeaway here? What do they absolutely need to remember?
This new shopping cart, I think, has the potential to be a real game changer.
Right.
It can really streamline your quoting process,
Right.
but it's not a magic bullet. It requires some careful thought especially on the setup side.
Okay.
And definitely on the training side.
Right.
Don't underestimate the power of clear communication
Yes.
and well-defined
Oh,
processes.
yeah.
That's how you really make this feature sing.
Configuration, training,
There
communication.
you go.
Music to any efficiency lover's ears.
Absolutely.
Now, before we sign off, I know you always like to leave our listeners with a little something to ponder. What's the one thought you want them to walk away with today?
Well, we spent a lot of time talking about what this new shopping cart is.
Right.
But the real magic happens when you start exploring what it can do, you know.
Okay.
Think beyond just that simple checkout process.
Yeah.
Could this be a tool for onboarding new salespeople? Give them a safe space to practice configuring orders, right?
Yeah. Interesting.
Or maybe a way to present product options to clients in a more, a more interactive, visual way.
Oh, wow.
The possibilities are really exciting if you're willing to get a little creative.
A virtual showroom, like sales training playground.
Exactly.
Now, those are some truly inspiring ideas. You've officially blown my mind again. And there you have it, folks. We've journeyed into the heart of Oracle CPQ's revamped shopping cart. We've explored its ins and outs, and we've emerged, I think, with a whole new perspective on its potential.
We have, yeah.
So go forth, configure wisely, and who knows, you might just revolutionize your entire quoting process along the way.
I love it.
Until next time, happy configuring.